welcome to Consciously Healthy. I'm Laura and I'm Claire. And how are you today?
I am okay. Our topic today is around periods, and I think that's a good one because we had the supermoon, the giant moon.
Oh, I don't know,
there was a full moon last night and
large lunar experience.
something like that, and I have definitely felt more hormonal in the last couple of days. So yeah, I think this is going to be a good topic. So yeah, I'm hormonal. How are you?
Oh, I'm looking forward to today then. I'm okay. I'm okay. I too I was expecting to bleed about 2 days ago and haven't. No, I'm not pregnant. There's no chance of that. And so that's quite bizarre for me because my periods are all over the place. They have been for a long time, so I've been working with that. So yeah, I maybe it's the moon.
How are you working with that?
I really struggle because we've both done quite a lot of work around the menstrual cycle and women, and how our periods can be a spiritual pathway for women. And we talk about that there are 4 stages, right, in the month. So there are 4 stages. So there's when you bleed, which is, we call it winter. And then there's when you are sort of just coming out of your bleed. This is spring. You come into the fullness, that ovulation of summer.
Pre-ovulation in spring, ovulation in summer. And then that really fun, autumny, ragey, PMT, don't speak to me kind of place.
I have quite a good time in that, but I don't think anyone else does when they're around me. And then we come back round to winter again when we bleed. And I quite like knowing when that's going to be, and for me it's always a little bit of a surprise.
So how come your hormones are all over the place?
I think it started a couple of years ago when I've got a history of chronic fatigue, and so from the kinesiology perspective, that is like an endocrine imbalance as well. I don't know, I'm telling you as well you know. And so I have underactive adrenals, and so my adrenal glands don't do what they're supposed to do, which puts a lot of stress on the rest of my system. And like my periods had always been quite regular until about 2 years ago, and they're kind of anywhere between 40 days and 17 days, and it just drives me insane. But the last 4 months, well, actually the last year has been basically runs of somewhere around 26 days.
And so what have you been doing to try and regulate your cycle?
I've been doing a lot. I mean, I'm really careful with my food, so I don't eat food that's particularly estrogenic, like particularly avoiding things like battery farmed chicken, which is really estrogenic. Soy, sugar, too much alcohol, although the odd cider can creep in the summer for sure. And I do try and rest as much as possible. And I take a lot of supplements at the moment, a lot.
And what are you taking?
Oh, loads. I take adrenal support, I take thyroid support, I take some specific supplements which cost me a fortune that are specifically to rebalance estrogen, and and also liver support for the liver does the detoxing.
So is your estrogen too high?
No, my estrogen's a bit too low.
And how did you find that out?
So I had some blood tests which actually showed that my estrogen was a little bit too low. But I think actually what happens is in my cycle it goes too high and then too low. I think it's just the adrenals going, I'm so confused. So I'm working on it, and this year has definitely been better than last year.
Yeah.
And how about you? How do you work with your cycle? Because you're like lovely and regular, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I'm very blessed, but I haven't been through anything like childbirth, so my cycles have just always been regular. It's not my Achilles heel at all. And I have one of those period trackers, which I really like, which is one of those apps, which I can really recommend actually, which tracks I can log when I'm being intimate with my partner.
Oh, do you actually log that?
Oh God, yes. Yeah. A little heart that you get. And so I look back on months and go, wow, we liked each other that month. And
it's like having a diary when you're 14.
It is exactly like
him
that.
Behind the bike shed.
It's exactly like that.
Had sex in capital letters. Underlined 18 times.
I really like to monitor where I'm at, and since I've been monitoring it, I can really see around ovulation, I am a lot more sexual, I just feel a lot more. So my cycle absolutely affects the mood I'm in. I've also adopted from my mother very much the Ju-on PMT. I get really intolerant, really intolerant, and I just need to be by myself. And one thing, like you mentioned, that your period for women can be a spiritual path, and that has been revolutionary for me.
Yeah.
So the more that I allow myself to be in a cycle rather than being linear, the more I can work with my cycle. Because I remember in my 20s hating being due on, finding my period as being an inconvenience.
Yeah.
And
Get rid of it, stuff it up.
Yeah, tampons and things. I just didn't want to see it. And
I remember going to the doctor to try go on the pill because I was going on holiday and I didn't want to bleed, you know, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I'm not like that at all. I think that the more that I drop into my cycle, the more I am myself, the more I'm connected, the more my intuition comes through. There are so many benefits for just being with my cycle rather than trying to control it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I was a nightmare on the pill.
Oh, did you have giant boobs?
I was enormous, and I was either screaming at people or crying all the time. And my sex drive died off. I think that's really common, actually, is people who go on the pill, women who go on the pill, lose their sex drive.
Yeah. And yeah, it is really common, actually. And so you had giant boobs but had no sex drive.
Yeah, that was fun.
Your
for
poor
my partner.
boyfriend.
I was like, look what you could have won, but don't touch it.
Oh, brilliant.
How do you work with
a
month if your cycle's a little bit skew-whiff?
I just have to go with what I'm working with. So I kind of just plot a month and then whatever falls in line. So, you know, something that we recommend, which is actually one of my tips, is that when you are in winter, when you are bleeding, is that you take time out. You know, literally do nothing. So it might not be for a whole day. Wouldn't that be blissful? But just literally for, even if it's just an hour of like real, okay, this is my moment to be able to drop fully into this moment of bleeding. And I notice the difference. Like if I really allow myself to winter, and it might be that I'm really quiet at home. I may do some work, but it's just very kind of, you know, quiet. I'm not really around people much. That I'm much more energized at ovulation. And when I don't have the time to do that, which of course I can't plan because of my cycle, I'm literally, by the time ovulation comes around, I'm kind of like, you know, it feels like I'm dragging myself up a mountain.
Yeah.
But something that revolutionised my periods was about 8 years ago. I discovered Mooncup. So I'd always been a tampon user and just, you know, didn't think anything of it. I didn't have a problem with tampons, you know, just that was just the norm. And then I discovered Mooncups, and it absolutely revolutionised the way I thought about my periods. Right, for a start, I used to think I had really, really heavy bleeds. And actually what I discovered when I have a Mooncup is I have about a half a day, which is quite heavy, but not the whole thing, because you're just only capturing sort of the blood. And I was like, wow. And it got me kind of literally physically closer to my cycle. Like it was no longer this sanitized white bleached cotton thing that was being flushed down the loo. It was like, it became a bit more visceral, and it's still really clean, and, you know, it's still got all the conveniences of a tampon, but it just radically changed everything for me. And it actually was the thing that got me to loving my period, like loving my bleed.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I'd love to see more of, is women loving their period. Really just being with it. And because I know now that when I'm due on, I really look forward to bleeding. Oh God.
What a relief.
For everybody in my life.
But I remember, you know, when we did some work, we did an amazing course, and they, you know, the main sort of thrust of the course was around, or part of the thrust of the course was around really getting down and dirty with your, you know, bodily functions and that kind of thing. And obviously periods for women is a really big part of that. And I just remember, you know, this, like the fear of, oh my God, you know, I might bleed a little, I might just bleed somewhere. And I remember her saying, just, you know, stand in the shower and just let it run down your leg for a bit. Just don't mop it all up straight away. Just be with it for a bit. And that is, you know, that feels quite risky. And I just remembered, I don't know if you saw this, but a couple of weeks ago there was something on social media about a woman who was running the London Marathon, and it was her period, and she was so concerned about having like, you know, they sort of get runner's nipples and stuff from chafing. She was so concerned about getting chafing from the tampon string that she decided to free bleed through the marathon.
Amazing.
And she was wearing these like bright pink jogging bottoms, and literally you could see the blood on the top of her thighs, and it's like it just kind of went a bit viral on social media.
Amazing.
Really brave, really awesome.
Yeah, well, all women do it.
Absolutely.
Free the bleed.
So my top tip is to rest when you're bleeding. What's your top tip?
I would say that my top tip is that time when you have PMT, I like to work with it rather than trying to get rid of it or trying to be in a different place, or to that feeling, that energy, that anger, frustration, that really grimy stuff that's coming up. Work with it. Find yourself in a place. I mean, I do this on such a regular basis. I know when I need to do I just let anger out. We've got a bat that we use in our clinic, and I get some cushions, and I just let it come through the body, and it's very, very cleansing. I find it really, and if you can do that when you're due on, then you can rest in your bleed. I swear, the next month is just a thing of beauty, because you've had the opportunity to have a really, really good clear out.
Yeah, gorgeous. So,
work with the PMT, not against it. That's my top tip.
Yeah, brilliant. Great.
Is that it?
I think that's
it.
Done? We're done.
Okay, that's periods.
See you next time.
Bye.